reason to talk
All
about
right,
it.
so welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, and we have some special guests today. One is, I don't know what you want to call it. One's a tank. One's a...
Hey!
No, I don't have mine. That's not even fair.
Maybe he was talking about yours.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a name for him. I didn't know we had named him. So
This is the 10.
the 10. There you go. And
That also has 2 extras, but no big deal.
and Warren's is the deer he called Magnum. But anyhow,
fitting.
so what we were going to do today is we want to kind of recap what happened this year. What did we learn? What did we think we need to do differently? What are some things that we want to continue to do? And these guys they had their racks still drying here. Mine's at home, so.
Dad did kill a deer. So
I did kill
we're
a
not gonna
deer.
Leave him out.
Yeah, but I've also had a lot of opportunities that have not gone my way, and so therefore we haven't filled a second tag. So anyhow, with that, let's talk about. We talked about some October strategies and November strategies and some calling and all kinds of stuff, and how much of that played into you guys killing these deer.
Go ahead, Warren.
Well, when did you killed Brahma first?
Yeah, October 25th.
October 25th. Okay. Well, then I think you can. So
They go
Dad
in
killed
order.
Brahma October 25th. I killed Magnum October 29th, and then
November 26th.
yeah. So Easton was a little late.
Pretty usual for me.
So why don't we start then with Dad?
Okay, so I think for me, it was textbook as far as what we had talked about trying to do in October and what I wanted to do, and I got one to do exactly that. And the big one was, number one, whether it was our scent or not our scent, but using glandular scents and putting it on a rub tree, and then reaching back into the old. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's been about an hour. Let's hit the horns. Don't see anyone. Don't know what's going on. Let's just see if someone shows up. I think for me, it was a ton of fun because I have our cameraman, Nick, is with me most of the time, and at that time, he didn't have much experience at all. And so I'm trying to tell Nick, this is what should happen. And this is what, they won't come running in at this time. Well, you just walk in. And it was like literally 10 minutes after I rattled Nick's big buck on the hill, and to hear him say that, and then you look up there and see this buck standing there looking and like not going by he's looking down toward us. And I mean, it was just really cool. The video shows everything. I mean, he comes across the hill. He can't find the 2 deer that he heard fighting. So what does he do? He decides that he's going to take it out on one of our rub trees. And so he postures to the rub tree, but the only problem is most of you know that I've had shoulder surgery and my arm can't hold it, and I'm at full draw. And I could have been the nice guy and tried to get you guys some video of him rubbing the tree, but instead,
Screw that.
I shot him. I shot him about 2 yards in front of the tree. So,
But that deer wasn't. You weren't chasing him specifically, right? That was just for a mature deer.
Absolutely. And I didn't have I had one particular deer this year that I was going to try to target, and had not seen him at that time. Didn't know, and typically he doesn't show up at the farm where I hunt him until later. And so I hadn't seen him. So there was a couple other mature deer on other farms. I said, let's go down here and see if we can. Now,
and you're able to get, the nice part is you're able to get 2 tags.
Absolutely. I get a landowner tag as well. So but at the time, I would say the deer that I killed, Brahma, it actually became something kind of a quest from the year before, because I had seen him and he had that goofy configuration. I was like, this deer is just cool. And when he walked out, we named him Brahma because he looked like a freaking Brahma bull. I mean, he was just a tank. And so to attest to that, even though his rack was not as big as Magnum's, they weighed the same, which was crazy that they were.
Wasn't it to the pound?
To the ounce.
To the ounce. They were 224.6.
Yeah. I wonder if our scale is broke.
No, because remember I went.
Me too. Mine was
I
a baby,
pulled on
evidently.
I checked it.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to see.
Well, that's what's crazy about it, though, too, is 2 totally different body configurations. Brahma was short and stocky and Magnum was just long.
Yep.
But I think that, so, Dad, honestly, I kind of think that your strategy, not necessarily your strategy, but what you had to face is a little bit harder. I feel as though during October that it's easier to have one deer, especially one that you know and have history with, and you know what he's going to do, and be able to hunt that one, than having to try it, than just kind of not necessarily a shotgun approach, but knowing there's mature deer in this area, like you end up having to do, because while you're waiting,
kind of like a crapshoot. Like maybe he's here, maybe he's not.
Yeah, well, I think when you narrow down and you're picking out one specific deer, you're paying a lot more attention to where those deer are doing and where they are during that time period. And I don't think that they move a ton during October, so you're a lot more in tune with where they are possibly going to be, and you spend your time focused on those areas. Where when you're saying, okay, I'm willing to shoot any mature deer, now you're kind of just putting yourself in the highest opportunity area, but maybe not with as much like Brahma. Really, in my opinion, we didn't have a ton of information on what he did or where he was.
For 2 years or 3?
2.
2.
Yeah, so I did a lot of basing off of the year before.
Yeah.
There was a scrape that they were hitting that I had opened this year and put our stints on there, and he had come there, and I was like, okay, not knowing to me, because when we went in, I passed one of my cameras. And the other part of it, I guess maybe we should talk about, because I know I talked about it when we put it out on social media. I had gone in there and put that stand and a blind both in the same location, because I wanted a blind there where I could go back and hunt it anytime we had crappy weather and a northwest wind. But I also thought, from the stand I could see more and cover more, and I had a stand that was not far away, so I moved it over there. So I went in there and I made all kinds of racket, and I pulled my truck in there. I did everything to try to act like I was a farmer in there doing my thing and that was on a Sunday. And I got all of that done, and I shot him on Tuesday morning. So in less than 24 hours, and the cameraman can attest, and we can show you, sitting in that stand that morning, I mean, that without a doubt, that morning I felt like that was the morning.
Blind, you sat in the blind.
I was in the stand. I wasn't in the blind. And because it was decent weather, but we had the right wind. And so we climbed up in that stand, and before it was even light enough to shoot, I'm telling Nick, you got to film the rub tree. Because I put that rub tree here Sunday, and it's freaking tore up already. I mean, it was shredded. And so I'm like on cloud 9, because I know I have potentially 3 or 4 bucks that would be shooters that could have done this, and so I'm like, any second now someone's going to walk out. And it just, like I said, it was one of those things where we hadn't seen the buck we were looking for, or we'd only seen a couple does and maybe one little buck, and hit those antlers, and lo and behold, he shows up and comes in, does what he's supposed to.
You shot him out of a stand?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could have sworn that you're sitting in that blind you showed me that. Huh.
Could have shot him out of that too, though.
Yeah, he walked within 15 yards of that blind.
That's interesting.
So is there one thing that you felt as though you did really right, and then one thing that you would have done different or changed about maybe the early part of the season? Maybe we can get into the second half here in a minute.
The one thing that I would say, that when in my situation, I'm rare to that I have a landowner tag, and I don't own a lot of ground. And so maybe I would have thought about trying to reverse the way that I went about it. Try to fill your landowner tag first, and then that leaves me open for a statewide where I can go other places. Because now, once I shot that deer, I've been limited to where I can hunt. And I don't have enough stands for all the different winds I get. So there are days I'm just out. I can't hunt.
Yeah, so if you kept your statewide, so you'd have options to move around.
Yep. So that would be the only thing that I've thought of is this was a tactic that I had to learn back when we moved to Montana before you guys you were born, but you weren't hunting yet. And when I first moved there, my issue was, man, I want to go hunt a mule deer, and I want to hunt an elk, and I want to hunt an antelope, and I want to hunt a whitetail deer, and maybe I want to go look for a wolf or go chase coyote. There were just so many things to do. And next thing I know, I find myself going, I'm not doing anything very well. I'm chasing everything.
Yeah.
And so a few years in, I finally decided, okay, this is how you do it. August to first week of September is antelope. You're gonna kill an ant. Don't think about anything. Don't do anything else. Don't go run trail cameras for deer or elk. Focus on antelope. Shoot your antelope. Then we switch to elk, and you spend the next 4 weeks, the whole month of September, chasing elk. Don't do anything else. No, I don't care if you're driving down the road and the mule deer crosses the road on public land, you don't go chase him. You're going elk hunting.
Yep.
And then once that's done, then you switch to deer. And once I did that, then that started to work. And I think I have to maybe apply that same logic to Iowa for me. And like I said, that's because knock on wood or thank God that Iowa allows the landowner to get another tag. I mean, I think it's a cool deal. So
Yep.
In your defense, though, well, actually, I guess that never mind. That wouldn't have mattered. I was going to say in your defense that the deer that you really wanted to kill was on one of your properties, which we end up finding out later he's injured.
Yep.
But I guess you could have shot him with your landowner, or shot a different deer with your landowner, and then still hunted him with your statewide and had everything else open. So that wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Well, we'll get into the things that we wish had gone differently, because without a doubt, I mean, I'm banking on a deer that I've been chasing for 2 years, and he shows up, and when he shows up, he's wounded. And he's not wounded by a hunter, I don't believe. He wasn't wounded by someone shooting him off the road. I think he got in a fight with another buck. There wasn't a scar on him, but this deer can hardly stand up. And I got within 50 yards of him and was going to try to get a shot at him and kill him. I mean, got out of the tree and stalked him, and because this was my chance, I really truly felt like this deer probably won't make it few days, and to this day I can't tell you whether he's still alive or not.
Which is a little different of a situation as far as your shots there.
Absolutely.
I know you're same as me with 40 yards is kind of
40
your
yards
max.
is max.
In a situation like that, you're doing it that's your target buck.
But
luckily
mainly
or not
because
luckily, but also because
he's
not
wounded
doing
already.
good.
Yep.
And we don't even know to this point if he's even alive. So
Yeah.
you may have just not had a great death going with that, being grueling saying that, but it's true.
After this morning, because I hunted this morning because I still have that landowner tag, I almost shot another coyote. I've already killed one chasing deer and had another one come by.
I think they're up this year as far as population, because I've never had coyotes like running deer under my stand before. I mean, I've seen them, but me and Nick saw some 2 days in a row. I've had 2 different times where they're chasing deer. We just checked a camera the other day where it was chasing a wounded buck. He was limping through the field, and there was a coyote right on his tail. Like I haven't noticed that in the past years. I mean, I know we have a lot of coyotes, but it seems like there's a significant more amount this year.
Well, this one ran 4 or 5 does right past us, and he kept on chasing them. And so, again, I go back to thinking about, I don't know that one coyote would be able to kill this deer I'm talking about that was wounded, but I think 2 or 3 of them without
I don't
a
know.
doubt.
I think you'd be surprised if they're wounded or something, and
Maybe.
a coyote can get a hold of their neck or something. I would not be surprised. But they are a small animal to take down a big, especially a mature buck.
Well, we'll do a whole podcast
Yeah.
on what we think about those critters. All right, so we get past October 25th, and Warren, you're up then.
all right, Magnum. For me, this was
The old Mag Daddy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because, well, one, he's my biggest deer ever, which I didn't necessarily know that at the time. I knew he was big.
We didn't think he would be all that much. Even if he was, we didn't think he'd be way over. I don't think.
I figured that if we killed him that I had another 172-inch deer. That's honest to God what I thought. Because I didn't.
As spoiled as it sounds, it is ridiculous that both of you, between the two of you, killed 4
I think
or
I
3?
have.
You have
Splits is 172.
and then you have 2, or 3.
3. Bullwinkle,
Yeah, so it is 4.
dragon, and
What are the odds you have
other
4
buck.
deer that are all
Actually,
completely
I think
different?
5, because I think base drop is 172 as well.
I thought he was 173.
I thought he was 171.
I
Oh,
don't remember.
he's
I don't
different. Either way, we're sitting
whatever
here talking about how many 170s we've killed. We sound like pieces of crap, but they're all 172 dang near.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they all look different. That's crazy, but anyways.
Which I have I'm not complaining at all about shooting 172-inch deer, but I just did figure, looking at him, one, I was just gonna shoot no matter what because mass is my thing. You guys have heard me say that before. I love mass, and obviously he's got a lot of mass. But just putting a lot of us kind of try to field judge him, and I figured he was probably going to be right at 172.
And he looks way different in person, according to you, than he did on camera.
Oh, he's
At least,
way
I
bigger.
mean, I didn't see him on the hoof. I never have, but
Eli would attest because the first thing out of his mouth when he sees him is, holy shit. And so when Magnum came in, so one, I'd say that we hunted this deer. I hunted this deer different than any other deer that I've ever hunted. And what I mean by that is Eli and I did nothing but hanging hunts. We sat 2 stand sets. I think it was 2 days is all. And I looked yesterday.
And one of them wasn't even for him, was it? It would have been
I don't know.
different farm.
Yeah, we had total like 10 or 15 sits, something like that in there for him, and almost every single sit was exclusively hang and hunt. Now, there was a few times that we hung the same tree. So I took Dad one day, and I knew that Magnum was in there because of my cheater cam. And so we actually,
I love that we call him that now.
Yeah.
we tried to get up into his bedroom, and I'd walked it a lot during shed season, and I didn't realize I drug Dad through some
thick.
crap. And then I was
He's
like,
a good sport about that stuff. We put him in some not good situations for being the age that he is.
well,
Yeah, that was a knock on you.
my gut didn't like it because I was like, man, I really screwed this up because once we got in there, there's nowhere to set up at all. So now we've walked like halfway up in there, and I did it on Onyx, and it was like 70 yards from where I thought he was, and we bumped a deer. So I don't know if it was him or what, but so then we had to back down and move back and set up somewhere that it was close to where I wanted to be, but not right exactly where I wanted to be. Which we did have several does come by, and this was really early still. I don't know, maybe October
15th or something, probably.
Well, I think it was earlier than that because the first encounter that Eli and I had with him was almost out of that same tree on October 14th. So then Eli and I went back and sat not right where you and I sat, but within 60 yards of where Dad and I had sat, and we almost killed him on October 14th. He was probably 35 yards, something like that, but with all the leaves and everything, I just didn't have a shot at him. Also didn't really expect him to come from where he came from, and so I don't know if he winded us or not, but we think that they might have caught a bit of our wind, so this goes back to, that just because they wind you one time or something doesn't mean that it's over. Which I still don't like it. I can promise you that. But so we were moving all around, trying to get on him. The thing that I would say that I learned the most from this season, it'd probably be the fact that I'm going to put a lot more weight in trying to kill the deer that I want before November 5th. Because being not the one with a tag in my pocket, watching you guys and everybody else, what these deer did, it was hard to find a specific deer after November 5th, it seemed like. Not that that's the exact day.
Granted, it was definitely a different year.
Yeah, it was a different year.
And not just for us. From everybody I've talked to, it's been not the normal rutting activity you see for Iowa, at least.
But I think, if there's a few key things that I'd say that I learned and I'm going to pay more attention to next year is, one, I'm going to put way more weight in rub trees. I knew that we've been using rub trees for about 2 years now, I think, and I think that the rub trees, I thought that they were going to be really good kind of like as a scrape, like a mock scrape and something that gives you some information and possibly some daylight pictures. That'd be something I said I made a huge mistake on with him, is that I put a rub tree right in his bedroom, and he hit it.
Hunt it.
Yeah, but I couldn't hunt it, and I never really was concerned about hunting it.
I just want to have a photo shoot with Magnum.
I was just looking for information, and so but during the season, I was like, man, I really screwed up because I can't. Here, I've got this rub tree, and he's hitting it, and I can't hunt it. The thing that I've learned this year that I believe that the rub trees do that give you an unbelievable advantage is they bring. One, it's hard enough to see a shooter, but once you do, it's extremely hard to get them into shooting range.
Yep. If they're not doing it naturally.
Right,
Yep.
And then I would tell you, from what I've seen witnessed this year, if you have a big buck between November 20th and October 23rd or something like that, and he's not with a doe, the chances that he will come hit a rub tree that you've put in that they've been pounding like that is really, really good. And I like the idea of that for increasing my odds of having one come into range.
Well, we should add one more thing to the rub trees, because it's something that I learned this year that I'm going to go back to doing no matter what. Concrete them in. And that may sound like crazy, but you want to carry some Quickcrete with you and pour it in that hole because every one of our rub trees are getting torn out of the ground because last year I concreted them, this year I didn't.
I think that's okay, though.
I don't.
As long as it's lasting you a while,
Yeah, the problem is the one time when you go to hunt it and it's not there and you need it there, you don't want to have to go pick it up.
It's all good. They rub it on the ground still.
Yeah, they do that too.
No, I was cussing at my cheater cam because I was looking up
I'm
my
watching
cheater
him
cam.
knock it over.
Yeah, and Magnum's leaning on it. I'm like, you fat son of a bitch. He's like got his head on there and he's doing this thing, and I'm like, you're gonna break my freaking tree.
I swear I'm going to disagree with you too. I like the size of the rub posts you use, but I'm using the flimsy ones because they last like twice as long without having to concrete them in because they flex with the deer. I had all my big deer doing what he did, and they go, "Ooh," you're like, oh boy, it's going to pop out. Flunk, right back.
But so I would definitely put way more weight in the rub trees. I'm going to, I think I will continue to kind of gamble all in, meaning that I'm going to take all my chips and put them all in to try to kill my deer before, or a deer that I want to kill before November if I can. The other thing is I'm going to start utilizing cameras
Less.
in a little bit different places. No, I really didn't.
Well, I just know he's been yelling at me for it.
I'm trying to think. I think honestly, I'm pretty sure I only had
26.
I think I only had one cheater camera up. Trying to
On him.
Yeah.
I think you had two, didn't you?
And just so people know, when we're saying cheater camera,
okay,
we're making fun of cellular cameras.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so
your other one was on a completely different.
I had 2 cheater cams out for him. Yeah, but that one died on me after 3 days. So I had 2 out. The one was the only one that was any use. And so as what I mean by that is I would, scrapes and rubs and stuff are great, but I'm going to put a few more in places where I think they're traveling to and from, because ultimately that's what killed him. Is Eli and I were speculating constantly where we thought he was coming from, and then he did end up coming from somewhere where we thought. So that would be the third thing. Is one, I'm going to stay persistent. I think I'd have to think. I can't remember if it was Eli or Easton or both of them, but I was considering going and hunting a different deer because we'd put in 10 days or something, and we'd seen him the one time, and then it was 5 or 6 days, and we hadn't seen him or had a picture. And so I didn't know if I felt as though I'd put in a little too much pressure or moved him around a little bit, and for whatever reason, talked with those guys, and we said, all right, we're going back. And
Well, I always push you hard to focus because you just love hunting so much. I'm like, dude, you got the one that you want to go for it.
Well, I like
Eli called that.
I like seeing I like scenery. I like new different scenery and new spots and the adrenaline of wondering what could show up. But yeah, Eli did call it. He's like, I feel really good about this. We were rocking Katy Perry, and it was and that's what made it happen.
That really helped with it.
It did.
I'm sure.
But so then I will
people
say
got
that
a taste of some of the things we listen to get pumped up. We're just sharing them on our stories throughout the season.
There's some of you guys with the Du hast mich, you concern me a little bit.
I'm a little concerned as to why you're hunting. What are you trying to get at? Du hast mich, like some Russian crap, ain't it? Something like that.
I don't know what that is.
It's like some hard rock.
I'm glad
rock.
that I don't know what that is. All right.
Third thing, though, there is one other thing I remembered that was really important that I would never, ever, ever do again. And it's part of what killed him is if you're doing the mobile hunting thing, I will never, ever go sit a spot in the morning that I haven't walked or looked at and picked out a tree. Because Eli and I did that the morning before, and we knew we were in the right area, but we moved in, we hung this stand, and when it got daylight, we couldn't shoot 9 yards. And we had a crap load of deer end up coming in, but I mean, the setup was worthless. And so now we were middle of where I thought he was, and we couldn't shoot anything. So then after that, we got down and we went and we picked out 2 different trees that we could see, and we're like, okay, these are good spots. And then the next morning, we sat in one of those that we picked out, and we shot him at 15 yards first light.
Cool. Yeah, he's a heck of a deer. I mean, and what I love about Mass is those deer, I don't love it, but you guys will hear me say it over and over again. He's not getting as much credit as what he's actually got antler-wise there. There's more antler just in how heavy he is out here and stuff in the tines and stuff like that.
Does this get considered as a drop tine or an abnormal, or is that his main beam? Because I felt like his main beam is here.
I scored this as his main beam, and this is an abnormal. So yeah, I mean,
kind of like
you
a drop
could technically say that it's a drop tine. I feel as though it's not really, but this to me, I think this comes off like the kind of
inside. It looks pretty clear that like the ridge goes up with his main beam. Like
yeah,
that.
This is the most outside edge, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that one's a tough call, but from my experience, this would be his beam, and this is an abnormal. I wouldn't really consider it a drop tine, but
Fair enough.
All right, Easton, I don't know if we have enough time in this podcast to get everything that you should have learned and
Should have learned.
or what you did learn, and because I think that you got to make sure that everyone understands. I'm just going to throw it out there that your target buck was within range. I mean, so you did everything right. Only one mistake.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was a mistake. I just think that only one malfunction in killing him.
My struggle this year was very large. I struggled a lot. Thank God I have family and friends, because otherwise I don't know if I would have, my bow would possibly be in pieces, or I may have like just jumped out of the stand. You have no idea how many times I considered. It was it was literally the hardest season I've ever had, and the hardest I've ever hunted. And that was number one that I learned. Obsession. I think it's great to be obsessed with something and love something and want to do it and spend every minute you can doing it. But number one, you got to be okay. Like, if you're going to be so obsessed with something, you got to be okay with outcomes that aren't going to be in your favor. I learned that at church yesterday pretty heavily. It was like God was like sitting there saying, "Hey, you're an idiot. You should have listened," which is probably pretty valid. But as far as early season, I guess unintentionally, opening day, my number 2 shooter showed up on October 1. It was legal light, but Joey was the one shooting, and he came into like 38 or something like that.
Okay, hold on. People are going to be like, who's Joey and why is Joey there? So,
well, I feel like we've talked about him a lot, but if you haven't listened to any of our other podcasts, Joey is one of my best friends.
Joey's a new bow hunter.
Like he'd killed a deer before with a gun. Last year was the first year I took him. Killed his first buck with a muzzleloader, and then same situation. We sat at a fire, and he said he wants to kill him with a bow. I said, "Oh boy," and but I guess I didn't back down to it. I said, "All right, deal," and we shook hands, and sure enough, started shooting during the summer, got him out, and so that was the goal. That was the first goal, and the other thing is set goals that strive yourself to work hard, but also be reasonable a little bit. Because I set 2 of the largest goals I've ever had in my life. One was to kill Joey, at least a doe or 2 in his first buck with a bow, as well as kill my biggest deer to date ever. And so those are 2, like, anybody that's hunted with a new bow hunter, it's nothing against the person. It is an absolute – we were lucky. Me and Warren were lucky because we started so young. So, granted, we went through all those things too, and it probably took us a little longer. But going to teach somebody else that it's hard. It's a activity or lifestyle that takes a lot of understanding. There's a lot of overload of information, and you gotta have experience. You gotta have deer come by, and so we had a pretty tough early season, honestly, because normally at that point, well, I don't know. I've shot a couple does throughout October, and we just weren't seeing the amount of deer that I normally do. And after some large arguments with Warren and Dad, we expanded our horizons. But ended up getting Joey as doe and then a buck. And I guess so my target deer.
So how much time did you spend with a bow in your hand in October?
2 days.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Yeah,
like
and the rest of it was because I want to make sure people understand how much effort was going into a new hunter, you know, and that you'd made that commit. You'd made 2 commitments, and now you had to choose because you were finding that you couldn't do them both at the same time.
That's what you were saying earlier about when you went to Montana, and you said it to me, like, dude, you got to focus on one. So I said, okay, because what we were doing, we were carrying both our bows. Because Joey was like, dude, you got to bring it. If one of your bucks come in, you got to shoot it because he's dying. Like, hunt with, like, right. He's never seen me kill something. And I've been with him for turkeys, deer, everything else, but he's never been like my camera guy or anything. And so I was like, all right, no big deal. It's not that much, just extra to grab, extra to carry, a lot extra to carry, but it was no big deal. And finally, it was, I don't know, like probably October 20 something. I said, all right, dude, we're doing this. Me and you, we're going to hunt. We're killing you a deer. Once we kill you a deer, then I don't care. Then it's me, and I'll go ham on Elway, which is what we called my buck. And the biggest success and the biggest heartbreak of the year was right when we did that, November 2nd. I had a massive argument with him at my house because I said, look, dude, we know a spot where there's bucks like no other coming through. We're going to go in there, but it's Elway's home to where he's at. I don't know if he's going to show up. We've seen him once on the hoof. If he does, you have the green light. And this is a 170-plus inch deer. And I said, I don't want you to pass this deer, and I know it's going to be an awful deer for your first deer. But if you get an opportunity at deer of that caliber, you have to do it. That you just don't get those opportunities.
And when you
very
say
often.
an awful deer, you mean just for someone to kill their
You got
first
nothing to
deer?
work for.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
to be that big.
And sure enough, and I honestly was saying those things just in case. I didn't think that we'd actually run into him. Well, there's 2 bucks, and this is when Warren had already tagged out, and Warren is dying to hunt with us or just to get in a stand. So I said, okay, reluctantly, you can come sit, but you better be freaking quiet. If you bust a deer, that arrow's going through your leg, or I'm pushing you out of the stand and you're not coming again. And
Which I really
so,
wanted to hunt with them because I knew that
Sit with them.
with
like in the
Joey, yeah, like it's not like we need a big buck or
There's pretty open
deer.
parameters. But, oh, boy, I was so mad with Warren that morning because I could hear him like 30 yards behind me. And come to find, because I could hear him breaking limbs and everything because he's got to hang his sticks and get in his saddle and everything. And come to find out, he was for like 4 or 5 minutes dangling there sideways because he had fell and gotten stuck on a limb. So I was like, okay, well, I'm very upset with you for being so loud, but whatever. It's not a big deal. But we saw deer right away. And
I
we
could have fully fell.
I wasn't
and
worried
that's-
about that. He was tied in. He's good.
Yeah, I only partially fell.
But anyways, there's 2 bucks that Joey would shoot fighting on November 2nd. And so I rattled at him. I said, Joey, I think we got a pretty good chance of them coming in. And they got very attentive and picked their heads up. And then out of nowhere, I was like, dude, I don't know if there's another deer behind them or something's kind of off because they were ready to like come in and then randomly started walking directly away from us up the hill, like on a mission together, like get out of here. I was like, why? And Joey goes, big buck. And I look over, I'm like, it's Elway. It's him. I said, Joey, he's coming. Like, get ready. And all I hear from him is, I stand by what I said. And I'm like, no, you did not. You didn't. Get your bow, dude. He's going to come in. He's like, I won't do it, dude. I'm not going to shoot your deer. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be mad at you. Needless to say, the deer comes in, biggest deer of my life, biggest deer of his life so far, biggest deer he's ever seen on the hoof.
Right.
Including like scouting during the summer. Comes in at 15 yards, absolutely perfect. Never has any idea that he was making rubs, he was making scrapes on the way in and quartered away. And my jaw was just dropped, absolutely dropped. And I had tears in my eyes because I was so happy that he was there. And so Joey turns around and goes, are you crying? I said, I think I am. He goes, are you okay? I was like, dude, I just can't believe that we just freaking saw that deer. I didn't think we'd ever be able to do that. I really didn't think that I would be able to get that deer that close. Well, I didn't know how much I'd regret it or not regret it. I don't regret the fact that he didn't shoot. But after that night, he shot his buck. It was go time. I went in, saw Elway a couple more times.
And he passed him, though. I mean,
He passed him, and
yeah, I mean,
it's not notable. I can't describe the amount of respect and gratitude I owe him for the amount of respect that he gave me.
Oh, yeah.
For somebody who, Warren said it best, he texted us because he's sitting in the stand right there like, oh my gosh, it's him, and just says, well, Easton, I think you have a pretty good friend because I've never met anybody who's never killed a buck before, including like a Pope and Young deer, that would pass a booner for you. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. I want to be mad at him, but I can't.
Well, it was like a movie for me because I heard them having this discussion the night before, and Joey saying no and everything, and then they rattled at these 2 bucks, and I was like, oh, this is gonna happen because here comes a buck, and I'm like, holy shit, that ain't the same buck. and then he's like walking right at him, and I'm like, is he gonna shoot? Is he not gonna shoot?
Because Warren can't tell. Warren couldn't see like what Joey's on the opposite side of the tree, so he had no idea.
It was a cliffhanger. I'm telling you what.
But that was like a huge. Like, it was a success. I mean,
well, and then kind of karma goes that evening. Joey ends
He
up
turned around and shot a
kills
buck.
his first buck, and it was what you guys said. It ended up just give people an understanding, like 90 inches or
Yeah, he's a
99.
perfect
99.
8.
Yeah, I mean,
Chasing
and
a doe.
And he was
and
stoked.
so happy, so
And absolutely crushed him. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. They could not have put it any better. He did it all on his own, everything. And deer ran like 60 yards, tipped. He was dead in like 10
That's
seconds.
what it's all about. When you pass 170-inch deer, shoot a 100-inch deer, and be
still
absolutely jacked about it.
He was beyond words.
All right, so
we get
now
into,
it's
like,
Easton's
now
turn
is,
to start
like,
hunting.
Yeah, so I didn't really feel stressed about not doing it. Like, I was more of stressed in the fact of I felt divided. I was like, I need to focus, and so that felt better. But we went in, and he's trying to take his real estate license, so he can't, like, he needs to study some. He's like, dude, I've been hunting way too much. I'm like, go do your stuff, get your test done, and then you can come film me. I'll have somebody. And so I think I have Nick right away. It was Nick right away. We saw, I don't know, like probably the first 2 or 3 days, tons of deer. Most rutting activity I saw all year. November like 3rd and 4th, and then on the 5th, I took a track. So this is one thing that I learned. Christo is my boy, and I love to track with him, but I normally don't track with him until I fill my buck tag. And
Christo's a dog, just so you guys know.
yeah, Christo's my dog. And one of my good friends called me that I'd tracked for previously, begging me to, I was like, no, I'm not coming to track your deer. You're 2 hours away, and I'm going to be hunting. Sorry. And he kept begging. I was like, okay. So I figured I could haul there 2 hours. Said, we got 45 minutes to an hour to track the deer, and I'm going back to get in a stand. We tracked him in 52 minutes, found the buck, got in the truck, said, see you, man. It was good talking to you. Hauled back. Me and Nick went to get in the stand at 3:30. Elway was under my stand. And granted, he was like 70 or 80 yards away. The best I can say is that with how that deer acts, everywhere he lives, he beds and everything, he had to have walked at least within, I would say, 40 to 60 yards. So that was sickening because we got in the stand without bumping him. Nick did a great job and rattled him back into 70 and wouldn't come in. And so that was my first turning point of, oh boy, this is true. Like, you're going to get one shot at a deer like this. You're not going to get another. Like, when you get that chance, you take that chance. And hunted hard, kept going. Heard a fight. We didn't see him for a little bit. Me and Joey was back in the stand. Heard a massive fight. And I learned from my deer before that when you hear deer fighting as hard as they are and as big as, I immediately knew that it has to be Elway and I don't know who else, because the amount of mass on these two deer was insane. It was nothing like I've ever heard before. I said to myself, okay, I learned it from my buck last year. I heard an insane fight break out, and when they're going that hard, they're probably going to go for a little bit. And if you don't know if they're going to come in, if you want to take the offensive risk, run. Get out and run and go try it. And so that's the only thing going through my head. I said, Joey, I think we should go. I was like, Joey, I don't think we should go. And then I just go fighting myself. I'm like, I know it's Elway. I couldn't get myself to do it. We had 10 minutes left to dark after they got done fighting for like 10 minutes. Never saw him. And then went and hunted.
They fought for 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm. They
Holy
went at
crap.
it. We had time. They were right over the hill from where we were at. So
That's the whole
100
thing, though,
yards.
is can you get, especially if you're filming, it's a little different. But I guess if you're just hunting, you can get your bow down and get out of the tree in
pretty
30
quick.
seconds. Yeah.
Yep. So I elected to be defensive and patient and try to wait for him to come in. No luck. Went and I figured my best opportunity is I can't be 100% sure that it was him fighting, but unless I have some deer I don't know about, I don't know what other deer would be that loud. So I went and hunted the closest stand I could that morning. Didn't see anything. Went the next evening, checked the camera down there, and switched my one cheater cam. Had gone dead, and I didn't know that they just don't send you notifications like once they're going dead or something. And so it wasn't actually dead. It stopped. So I switched the batteries out, get to the truck, and right when the moment I got service, ding, 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 all these photos coming in. I was like, holy cow, I have been getting pictures. And I look, and heartbreak like no other. And I don't know how to describe it because it's the dumbest thing ever, but it, to me, was huge. Elway was on that camera, 60 yards from where I heard the fight the previous night. That morning, and broke off one of his biggest tines. So he was going to be just over 170 for that milestone for me, that marker, and not he's gonna be maybe like low 160s, if not less, which is still a huge deer. Don't get me wrong, but I was trying to see if I could get myself to kill a specific deer over 170, and Dad calls me crazy, Warren calls me crazy, but I have nothing against people that fix tines, and I know exactly how long it is, or at least within the inch, and how I kill them is how I kill them. And that's just kind of how I don't know where that's come from. I don't know why. And that's just how I've kind of gone with it. So I contemplated for a day or two on what to do because I was distraught on shooting him or not.
But to me, it's still the same deer. Like,
I
you
know.
still achieved it.
I don't
You
have
still-
to-
Yeah, you still got to beat his mind and his eyes and his nose, and it doesn't matter about the tines. And the thing that I guess I would say is fixing tines is one thing if you don't know the deer. You know, you're throwing something
Well,
back
at that
at
point, that's art.
Yeah.
Just being creative.
because then you can just make it whatever. But fixing tines on a deer that you have confirmed, you guys had video of him at 15 yards.
Oh, yeah, you could tell
when he
pretty
had
easily
that
what
tine,
he was.
you know, you would know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I've learned too, I think, is that once you, and I think that you can probably attest to this. I don't know, you get a little more stressed than I do, but I think that once you've been fortunate to kill a few deer of a certain caliber, not having the stress of trying to kill a deer like that, I think helps you kill them. Because I think that what you're trying to do, and you're
Put so
trying
much
to
pressure on
prove that you put so much emphasis on yourself and so much pressure that you literally stress yourself out, which I think Eli would tell you the whole time with Magnum, I was pretty kicked back, you know, because I've just been fortunate that I've killed a couple deer like that. And I was like, you know, if we kill them, it'll be awesome. But because I really, all the main goal for me hunting Magnum is because if I was going to kill a deer early, then I want it to be a big deer that I really like. Otherwise, I just want to hunt. And so, and I'm okay with it. If I could go a year and not kill a deer, and I've been fortunate enough to do that now, where I think you're at a stage where you want to prove something to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you put so much stress on yourself that then you start thinking about decisions, and you just overthink things, and you put too much. You just make it too stressful. That's really what I
You're
think it
probably
comes
right.
down to.
I guess so. Like to continue the day or two that I took to let my brain recoup from it, I didn't know where my heart was with. I had set one deer to kill, and granted, I had multiple other deer that were plenty big that I would love to shoot any year, and it was weird because I had to understand, okay, this deer, if you're not going to shoot him, these are other deer that you'd love to kill, so why are you not like all in on them? So I took some time. I was like, okay, I know I'll be happy with these deer, and so we're gonna go hunt, and we're gonna just kind of let the cards fall. Whatever comes by, comes by. And the next morning that I decided to go, Nick was with me again. The first light, I see a deer, and I said, as long as I look at it, whether I know it or not, and it's big deer to me, or I get excited about it, we're shooting, because I'm not strapping myself down to one deer now. And sure enough, before we even got set, I said, Nick, I can hear deer, and then I looked over and said, big buck. And so right then, I didn't even know what it was. All I just saw is him chasing a doe, and just knew that it was a big deer that I was going to be happy to shoot. Well, we got set, rattled at him. He comes in. I made my first mistake in 4 or 5 years with my single pin. This is why you should be careful on using single pins.
That's why you should be using multiple pins when you're hunting.
I don't use a 5-pin
That's my
because my
opinion.
pin gap is so small that they all blur together, and I don't have great eyes. So, and it gives me target panic. So with one pin, I only have one decision, and I put it there and I shoot. Okay. Anyways, I screwed up. I thought he was coming into one of my scrapes, which is what he's acting, and which was like 20 yards. Ended up coming in on a different trail. I was like, oh crap, I better hurry up. He's coming in. He's going to be like 32, 33. Thought I dialed my pin to 30. Shot, missed right under him. Perfect left and right. Missed right under him. And couldn't figure out what I did wrong. It wasn't until that evening that I normally put my pin on whatever the most common or best chance of a deer coming in that stand. That's where I'll set my pin. And I went to set it, and I was like, wait a minute. I haven't shot anything since that deer, and I had it set at like 26 or something, and he was 33. And I was like, okay. And I aimed low, obviously, too. So I was like, there's no way I was going to hit him. So that was good because it kind of didn't take the confidence away from me. But that was number one where I was like, oh, boy, this is not going well. Fast forward, hunting hard, trying to find Elway, because now Nick has had to come to Jesus with me. and said, look, man, you already beat him. You already did everything. The only reason you didn't kill him is because you didn't have your bow. That's it. So why wouldn't you shoot him if he came back in? I said, I guess if I shot him, it'd be for a little different of a reason now. But I'll add him. I'll add him to the list. I think you're right. So now we had Elway back on, so we're hunting him, hunting some other deer, and can't find deer anywhere.
Because now the rut has started.
Yeah, it's rolling.
That's what Warren was talking about. And then all the effort and information that normally, and that's what I try to tell people that are coming from out of state or going to hunt somewhere. Everyone wants to go when they're peak of the rut. Well,
that's hard.
You know, it's great for if you have multiple target. Mm-hmm. You know, if you just say, I want to kill something over this, then that's a great thing to do.
I had multiple, and I couldn't find them at all. And I'm not a big fan of the belief of a lockdown where they're going to sit there and just not go anywhere. But it was more of what I've learned, and my probably biggest lesson is pressure. And I hunted. We did it. I have like over 50 individual sits, which doesn't really mean anything, but 28 days total hunting. In 28 days, 25 of those are, not including Joey's 15 that were on the same spot. So that's 30-some or 40-some sits in one area, or days in one area. That's a lot of pressure on the same deer. And so that's number one that I learned. And I didn't learn that until afterwards. But a couple other things started happening where I just couldn't find deer. I got close with Warren on one of the big 8s that I really wanted to kill, and just didn't trust my gut I should have killed him, but I didn't trust my gut on which side of the tree to pick when he was coming in. And he busted us. So now I'm like, what the heck? That's the first deer we've seen in a hot minute that I would be willing to shoot. And I just screwed it up. And then Warren went back to Alyssa, hunting with Alyssa and filming her because she had some free time. And Eli was in the stand with me. And part of hunting on land that other people have permission on, you got to deal with it. And I've always been a fan of, like, if there's going to be other people there, I'd like to know them, meet them, say, hey, man, here's my number. We can coordinate. Like, if you're going to be here, I'm going to be there, just so you can stay out of each other's hair kind of thing. Well, that didn't work. That didn't happen. So we're sitting in the stand. Kid comes walking under my stand. He was like 100 yards away, 4:30 in the evening, so it gets dark at 5:15, or like last shooting light's 5:15 in the middle of the rut, walking around with the crossbow, and I was like, okay, this is like the last straw. I can't handle it. And just meaning I got out and left. I was like, we're not waiting to see. I don't care. So we got out and was talking to Dad and Warren about it. And Dad's like, look, man, you've been hunting all these places. You're welcome to come hunt anything that we have, anything at all. I was like, normally I would say no, I'm good. I got my own places and I'm successful in those places and I enjoy hunting them. And because I just like to help you guys with the work on them. And I hunt my own deer. And Warren starts yelling at me for not having a goal. He's like, you're too scatterbrained. You need to restructure your goal and figure this out. And I said that your goal needs, I think if your goal doesn't include having some fun, then you got to realign because I was definitely, what your goals are. I was well over stressed in fun. Like it was more of like, there was never an option of giving up. It was more of a like,
you got to go
pissed.
Speed round or you're going to have to text.
Okay.
I'll
hurry. Well, we're almost there. And so me and Dad picked a farm that none of us had really hunted this year. We've hunted previously in the past some, and I said, okay, my new goal can be let's try to learn these deer, and I'll set a new caliber for a buck or just a really cool deer or something that's going to help. And so we went there. Me and Warren hunted one day. Me and Dad hunted one day. Another thing happened where I got full draw on a buck. Did not work out.
3 times.
3 times on this one freaking deer, partially for other reasons and another part because the freaking deer, they don't listen. They don't have their ears open. I was freaking yelling at the deer and he wouldn't stop. So that royally pissed me off.
But that's hunting.
It is hunting. But fast forward, me and Dad hunted 3 days together. We figured out these deer on this farm extremely quickly. I'm having a hellacious season, highs and lows.
Well, hold on, don't skip because then on the second day, so Easton comes to full draw 3 times on a buck that was definitely a mature deer that was worth shooting. The very next evening, Easton picks the spot. We climb up, we hung stands. We didn't use the saddles because we saddled for the one where he didn't get the shot. And the saddle was kind of part of it. Things were slipping and sliding.
It's just hard for me to turn, and I'm not good at it.
Position of the deer.
That's one thing. If you're going to use
part
a
of saddle hunting. You got
need to practice with it. Yeah.
Practice
And
a
I
bunch.
practice with it, but not in like screwed up enough situations where you got to be able to twist around and stuff some.
Right.
But we hunted that stand the next night, and
And a great deer
had
comes in.
Well, he had a huge deer called Ace, big 11, like 170 plus. Like I was not looking for 170s anymore, and he shows up, and then a mini version of him shows up. We tried to time it right to rattle at the 11 just for a chance because he had a doe. Here came the smaller version of him, still a huge deer. Like I think he's probably 150 something, but the moment I saw him, he's tiny, like tiny body tiny.
Right.
And I preached to Warren and Dad about if we're gonna try to grow some big deer, we gotta manage. We can't be shooting young deer. They're never gonna get big if you shoot them when they're smaller. And came into 20 yards, or 15 yards. Dad's like, "You got the green light. We can afford a deer. Just shoot him. That's a freaking awesome deer."
Well, you got 50-some sits.
I'm like, "Dad, I know it's a great deer, but I'm not gonna go back on."
Him.
I know. I was like, I'm not going back on my word on this. This is not. I don't feel right about this. Isn't how it's supposed to be done here.
Yep.
So almost got a shot at a different deer that night. No luck. We went back to refined where we saw them coming out in this field, set a new blind, and didn't see. We had 12 minutes of deer that night. That's it. We didn't see a deer the entire time until we saw one. They all showed up, and the same deer, Ace, came in, and our number is 40 yards, or my number is 40 yards. He came in with the same doe to 43, calm as can be, chilling.
Let him go.
Dad said, You're good to shoot if you're I know you can make the shot. And I said, I know I can make the shot too, but if I shoot at 43, what's next? And that's what he's taught us younger. Yep. And he definitely was like, you're good. You don't got to worry about that. Like he's super calm. His demeanor's good. I was like, no, I'm sticking to my word. Same thing as last night. 40 is 40. Yep. Not next. Not what's after. So I let the biggest deer of my life go. And, not even 5 minutes later.
Well, same clip. I'm still filming him as then Easton says another big buck, and I wheel the camera over in time for one to walk in under 40.
Mm-hmm. So I turned around to see this big boy walking in, and I was pumped. And he came in chasing a doe at like 30, 33 yards, put the smack down on him. I didn't think I did.
Arrow went exactly where
I wanted to, hit the offside shoulder, and I couldn't tell when I shot that I thought my whole arrow was like maybe 2 inches in, and Dad was like, you got a dead deer. I was freaking. I was like, no way. And kind of find out I got like 14 inches of penetration. The deer, the only reason we didn't see him go down is because he went barely over a hill, didn't even make it out of the cornfield, and tipped right there, and marked the hardest season of my life. He's not my biggest deer, and I don't even care because I've got one other deer that means a ton to me emotionally, like what I put into that deer, and this deer is like immaculate. How much effort, time, how much my family supported me, my friends supported me, the amount of time people put in with me, and everything I learned with it. So it still doesn't.
Well, I think when you listen to all three of us talking about this and the whole season, people need to understand, yes, we have a television show and people see the success that's on there, and we try to show some of the failures, but what people can't see is the time, the effort, the emotion, and everything that we have. I mean, we have life going on, not just deer hunting. We don't get to wake up every day and just go deer hunting.
Yep.
We got to go to work and do things at the office. We got to do
work late.
We have friends that want to hunt with us. We got cameramen that got to do this or that. We have things we're trying to coordinate. And so, I mean, I think
I'd say too, the thing you should add to that is we also hunt stuff that's very similar to most other people.
Yes.
We don't have
people
a whole
think
lot
that
of
we're just hunting thousands of acres that are all food plotted and everything else, and I'd be okay with that, but actually I probably wouldn't because I like seeing neat stuff, but that's not realistic for us.
Correct.
Yeah. So we got a lot of variables still. Clearly.
Is there one thing though, that one takeaway that you'll take into next hunting season that you think will make it better?
Yeah, I got a lot, but probably.
But the biggest.
I genuinely think that the obsession thing was a big learning curve, and that goes with like the pressure, like getting so obsessed or with one thing that all of your emotions rely on. That is, I won't ever do it again because it took a lot of the fun out of it, and I considered just being done because I felt like I wasn't hunting for the right reasons until I kind of had to come to Jesus with it. So mine would be don't pressure yourself, don't pressure the deer so much to where you're unhealthily obsessed with it. That's mine.
I think that's a good. I think your goals have to have fun involved in it, and I think that gets lost more than you would think.
Pretty easily, way easier than you think.
One of the reasons why we are able to hunt 50 days is because we do enjoy it. You know, there's something you got to enjoy going back. I mean, I'm still hunting right now, and this morning I was like, this is a perfect morning. You know, this is, and then it was. You know,
take the time to sit there when you're watching the sunrise and you're not a morning person to appreciate the sunrise.
Yeah.
And sit there in a stand and be like, okay, this is actually really pretty, and I'm lucky to be sitting here right now, whether there's a deer standing in front of me or not. So.
Yep.
Are we going to have to do a stage 2 of your season? Because we still have the rest of your.
Well, we were going to talk about and we're probably going to cut it off because I think we ought to do another podcast on late season because definitely my tactics have changed. You know, meaning there's some things I'm doing now that I didn't think I would be. I didn't think I'd get deer to respond to antlers like they are, and I found that out when I was hunting with you. Because every time you touch the antlers, we had bucks show up.
So
meaning now.
Now,
yeah.
And today that
so you're saying from November
25th, November 25th on. I mean, it just
they were going hard.
Yeah, I mean, and now
granted,
it's different.
I don't think it's like that every single year, but
it seems like the young bucks have quit. It seems like they're kind of like, okay, we'll go over and check this out. But the old bucks seem like they are, okay, I don't want this to be over yet. I still might find one more doe. And so they'll
still finding their ladies.
Yeah,
they're not satisfied with just one or two.
So the other thing I'm finding is that they have no problem with walking around in daylight hours. You know, I don't think there's as much pressure out there right now. There's not other people hunting, but they also have shrunk their core areas. They're not going very far. You know, they're staying tight. So it's very similar to October.
I think that the whole thing is in reverse. I think that you have like your stage 1 in October and stuff. So what you're talking about is your bucks start to daylight. They start to get, not that they wouldn't daylight before, but they start to get more active around your scrapes and start looking for does a little bit. And I think you get your peak estrus, and then I think you get to the third part, and I think you have that first phase kind of all over again for a short period. It's just not as crazy because your small bucks aren't going so ballistic.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
It's definitely, and I
pretty
think
habitual too. We watched those deer multiple times. Same thing. That buck walked on the same trail. Very mature, very large deer walked on the same exact spot 2 nights in a row through the middle of the field.
Yep.
So
it can be. So I guess to sum it all up, guys, you know, we're just showing you, we're giving you our opinion, but we're also going back and giving you the facts of what it took. You know, and we killed 2 deer in October. We killed another one late November. We had some other ones, camera guys and stuff that killed in between there. Karen killed in there. You know, and we want to summarize all of it for you. We'll break this down and probably go into more detail before next year's season, where we can talk early season, middle of the season, late season, and truly, because there's some things that people have questioned. Hey, can you guys do a podcast on X? Someone asked if we could do one on hunting CRP.
Yep.
We don't do that very often. So, you know, we need to either find someone that can. But there's some things that we definitely have people asking that we can answer now just off of this season alone.
Yep.
So
let us know what you guys are looking for us to start talking. We got plenty of deer stuff from this year that we'll do recaps, lessons, things we've learned. But anything that you guys are going to want to be hearing about in the off season, we want to keep going. We're going to keep going. So if you guys have anything specific as we're moving on to new seasons, let us know.
Send us all your pictures.
Yep.
Love seeing your harvest photos.
And thank you guys for all the reviews that you have done, and for everyone that has told us, the people that have called, that have emailed, that have texted, and sent messages on social media thanking us for doing the podcast. Big hats off to you guys already because that's what gives us incentive to do what we're doing. So thanks again, guys. We sure appreciate you. We're out of here. This is the Raised Hunting Podcast signing off.